A lot of buzz around the Philadelphia Eagles right now going into free agency, which gets underway on Monday. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Senior, and coming up, we'll talk about the latest Eagles trade rumors around Maxx Crosby. How about a trade for Brian Thomas Jr., one of the top wide receivers in football, who had a down 2025, was miserable in Jacksonville, but you know the talent is there from what he did during his rookie campaign. Those are only two players who we're going to talk about. We'll touch on some additional players as well who Howie Roseman could acquire via the trade market. I do want to begin here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Eagles buzz is really heating up. NFL free agency is next week. Anytime the Eagles sign a player or lose a player, I'll be live here on the show giving you videos and content and talking about that. And the proof is in the pudding, man. What we do here is very special. That's why we're closing in on 150,000 subscribers. So be a real one, lock us in, join the movement, and hit that subscribe button right now. Jonathan Jones, NFL insider for CBS with this. If the price is right, just about any player in the NFL can be traded. In Las Vegas, sources believe that's true for pass rusher Maxx Crosby. Las Vegas is extremely unlikely to get 2 first-rounders plus a young player for Crosby. But there are teams willing to give up a first-round pick and then some, or a collection of picks that equal that in order to land the 28-year-old Crosby, who has 68 tackles for loss over the last 3 years, which is second most in the NFL. And obviously, Maxx Crosby, from that defensive end spot, is one of the elite pass rushers in the game. Now, when I was at the NFL Combine, even when I was at the Super Bowl and talking to a lot of people across the NFL, that's something else that we can give you here on this show, is some insider information from time to time. I don't consider myself a big J journalist, more of a broadcaster, content creator, and entertainer, but I did study journalism at Temple University, and anytime we get some news from sources, we'll pass that along here on the show. According to multiple reports that you've seen, according to some of the chatter that I've heard, Howie Roseman is expected to show some interest in Maxx Crosby. Why? He's one of the top defensive players in football. Howie Roseman loves making splash moves. The Eagles are in a Super Bowl window. Maxx Crosby wants to win. And Howie Roseman values the pass rusher spot. But if I'm Howie, or if I was advising Howie, I would actually tell him not to trade for Maxx Crosby. Call me crazy. I know that Maxx Crosby is an elite player, but I don't want the Eagles to trade for Maxx Crosby. I actually think the smarter play for Philadelphia would be to retain Jaelan Phillips, who's younger, last year was arguably more productive than Maxx Crosby, and he's going to be cheaper on the new contract that he signs. So Crosby is absolutely a premier player. He's elite against the run and as a pass rusher, but he's going to be 29 years old. He's ended the last 3 years injured. His cap hit is north of $30 million, and Philadelphia would have to give up at least a first-round pick and additional draft or player assets in order to trade for Maxx Crosby. So I think the Eagles are just better off re-signing Jaelan Phillips, who last year showed that he's a great fit in this defense, has now flourished twice under Vic Fangio, had more than 40 pressures in 8 games for Philadelphia, and is cheaper and younger than Maxx Crosby. And look at how both of these players compared last year. Pressures per game. Jaelan Phillips had 4.5. Maxx Crosby had 3.5. Age in 2026. Jaelan Phillips is going to be 27. Maxx Crosby is going to be 29 years old. Just go with Phillips, who again is the more affordable, cheaper, and last year, the more productive player. Name value doesn't equal that player being better. Plus, you'd have to give up a ton and pay a ton for Maxx Crosby. Diana Russini with this report. I've got to give Diana Russini credit. All this stuff that she was getting crap for on the A.J. Brown front, she's been right on. And one of the things that when I go to the Super Bowl, the NFL Combine, I get to see people like Diana Russini networking and talking to people all around the NFL. She is very, very tapped in. There was a moment prior to Nick Sirianni speaking with the media last Tuesday during Combine Week where she spent like 10 minutes chopping it up with Nick Sirianni. Now, I'm not saying Sirianni's the source, but Sirianni knows who Diana Russini is, and she's very tapped in. She was alongside Mike Silver, who always gets scoops from every team across the NFL, seemingly. What becomes interesting about this right here? Obviously, the Raiders have a high price tag for Maxx Crosby. The Eagles have a high price tag for A.J. Brown. New England Patriots are in need of a number one wide receiver. They just released Stephon Diggs after 1 year with the team. Stephon Diggs was a productive player for Drake May in 2025. He's not A.J. Brown. It's going to give New England some salary cap relief. They already have some of the most cap space in the National Football League. Now that they released Stephon Diggs, they've got some money to spend. They've got some okay draft picks. Do they look at A.J. Brown as the end-all, be-all for their wide receiver room as a player who they need to acquire? Look out for that. As for the tight end position for Philadelphia, a tight end option that I really like as far as a trade target for the Birds if Dallas Goedert were to leave in free agency is Michael Mayer of the Las Vegas Raiders. He is the number 2 tight end under Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is one of the top tight ends in football. He's not going anywhere. Michael Mayer fits the mold of what the Eagles look for and like in a tight end. A big body, athletic pass catcher, can pick up yak, but he's also a really good blocker. And Michael Mayer is a really, really good player. He was drafted in the second round a couple of years ago out of Notre Dame. And then Brock Bowers was on the board for Las Vegas, and they said, we can't pass up on this generational player. So as a number 2, Mayer, 50 targets last year, 35 catches, 328 yards, 9.4 yards per catch, a touchdown, and 2 drops. Imagine what this guy could do if he were a number 1 tight end. Year 1, 27 grabs for 304, 2 touchdowns, 2 drops. 2024, 21 for 156. 2025, we talked about the numbers just moments ago. Michael Mayer could get unleashed in this Eagles offense, and he too would be cheaper than what I think Dallas Goedert gets as a free agent. So pick a tight end for the Eagles in 2026. DG for Goedert, MM for Mayer. Share your thoughts with me and pick a tight end for this roster right now down in the comments section. Today's Philadelphia Eagles Now is made possible. It is sponsored thanks to our friends at PrizePicks. Shoot your shot on PrizePicks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. That's right. PrizePicks is now giving you $50 in lineups when you sign up and play your first $5. PrizePicks makes every dunk, every dime, every board that much more exciting, so don't miss the chance to get started on America's #1 app for sports picks. Join the millions of users. Sign up today. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Pick from all of your favorite sports. New feature alert. PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out of those winnings before the game even finishes. 3-pick power play. Looking ahead to next football season. Myles Garrett, more on the sacks. Saquon Barkley, more on the rushing yards. Justin Jefferson, more on the receiving touchdowns. Boom, boom, boom. As easy as that. Payouts, safe and secure. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. This player is a fascinating trade target for the Eagles here. Could Brian Thomas Jr. be a trade target if A.J. Brown were to get dealt? Now, as compared to this being a rumor, this is more so an idea from Zach Berman of The Athletic, who joined us Combine Week from Indianapolis and does a tremendous job covering the Eagles for The Athletic. He's been covering this team since 2012, and I encourage you to check his article out. He had 25 steps and 25 things that he would do if he were the general manager of the Eagles, and he said if the Eagles were to trade A.J. Brown, he'd look into a trade for Brian Thomas Jr. And here's what he said. If Brown is traded, the Eagles cannot rely on DeVonta Smith and a rookie wide receiver. The free agent class is uninspiring. Rather, they should trade from their pick surplus for a wide receiver to start opposite of DeVonta Smith. I'd target the Jaguars player, Brian Thomas, whose production declined last year after a standout rookie campaign. Thomas is entering the 3rd year of his rookie deal, so the cap hit would not be burdensome. The Eagles should offer a 2026 second-round pick and a conditional 2027 pick based on Thomas hitting performance incentives. 2025 was definitely a little bit of a red flag for Brian Thomas. I'm not sure why the numbers went down, and I'm not sure why he was so miserable. He was targeted 91 times, had 48 catches for 707 yards. The Jags were winning, but he was unhappy. 14.7 yards per catch, 2 touchdowns. He had 8 drops. There were definitely some concentration issues. The Jags did have a big year from Travis Etienne. They did trade for Jacoby Myers. They had some good options there, but I was so surprised that Brian Thomas declined in year 2 compared to his rookie year when he cooked. 87 catches on 133 targets, nearly 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns as a rookie. He was very explosive. I asked earlier, why was he miserable? I don't know. I wouldn't want to play for the Jags either. Come to Philadelphia, and he could be reignited. So if the Eagles were to deal away AJ, if Howie got a deal that he couldn't refuse, a first-round pick, a second-round pick, maybe a player, here's some wide receiver trade targets. Brian Thomas, Marvin Harrison Jr. He hasn't lived up to expectations with Arizona, but the talent has always been there. DJ Moore is more of like a Deebo Samuel, Swiss Army knife, inside slot player, but he's got some shake and bake to his game. Michael Pittman has definitely declined. I don't like the lack of separation there, but he could be made available. And then Keon Coleman, disappointing start to his career. I was speaking with an NFL scout at the Combine who said that sometimes he will dominate in practice, and it's incredible what he does. Other times, the following day after dominating, he'll be late. Good guy, just doesn't have his shit together. So that is some trade buzz around Philadelphia going into NFL free agency. A reminder, turn on your notifications. Whenever I publish a video, whenever we go live, if you set your notifications to all, you'll get that push notification so that you can stay in the know with all things Eagles here on the show. And if you love the content, that's a no-brainer. Also, don't forget to give me a follow on social media. I'm always talking about the Eagles here on YouTube. I've got some big platforms on my social media pages talking about the Birds there as well. X, Instagram, TikTok, at Chase_Senior. And then for the older folks or younger bulls, I'm on Facebook, Chase Senior Chat Sports.